Hey, I'm Zachary. They told me I was forgetful, said I was confused, that I didn't need to see the papers they were signing behind my back. My own son tried to erase me from the home I built with my wife. He called it downsizing. I called it betrayal. But what he didn't know was I wasn't as broken as he thought. So tell me, what would you do if your child plotted to throw you out of your own house? Every morning before the sun even kissed the corner of our block, I was already up. Been that way since my days in the mill. Habit don't die easy. I'd sit at the window with my chipped old mug, black coffee, no sugar, watching them kids shuffle past the porch on their way to school. Some still had crust in their eyes, backpacks slung half open. It used to make me smile. Now, I just sip and stare. 40 years I gave to Bethlehem Steel. Sweat, bone aches, missed birthdays, and holidays spent on the floor in that furnace heat. Bought this house cash before I turned 50. Thought it meant something, that I was building legacy. But now they treat me like leftover furniture. Like I'm just here. Dinner last night. Nobody said a word to me. Theo scrolled his phone the whole time. My granddaughter barely looked up. I asked about her science fair. She shrugged. Ask Mom. That's all I got. Truth is, they don't hear me no more. Not really. They just wait for me to leave the room so they can breathe easy again, like I'm the heavy air in this house. My daddy used to say, if they stop looking you in the eye, they already started erasing you. Lately, I've been feeling that. Deep. This morning, while sweeping the porch, I heard them. Theo and his wife behind the hallway door. They wasn't whispering, but it wasn't loud either. Just plain. If we get power of attorney, we can just list the place. He won't even notice. That hit me like ice water down my spine. I didn't flinch, just kept sweeping. Brush, sweep, dust off the corner by the steps. The same steps I built with my bare hands when the old ones cracked in '92. I ain't let my knees buckle. Not then, not now. Later, I saw that same mail I've been waiting on. Property tax notice. Gone from the table. I ain't moved it. And somehow, a bright red flyer from Johnson Realty found its way on the kitchen counter. Theo been talking to me like I'm a visitor. You need help with that, sir? Sir, since when? And my granddaughter, she used to call me Pop Pop. Now I'm just him. Am I crazy? Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe I'm finally seeing what's been there all along. I said it to myself sitting on the porch that night. A man starts dying the day folks treat him like he already gone. I tried to fix it. Cooked smothered pork chops the way Theo liked. Used Mama's old skillet. Even seasoned it the same. He walked in, looked at the plate, then said, "Oh, I already ate," and walked right past me. I sat there in silence. Only sound was that ticking wall clock and the sizzle of cooling grease. I scraped my plate into the trash. Later that night, I heard him laughing behind closed doors. Same folks that walk past me like I'm part of the wall. Next day, I went to church, sat in the back. Pastor Germain saw me after service. I told him I felt like I ain't matter no more. He nodded, slow and heavy, and said, even Jesus got betrayed by someone who dipped bread in the same bowl. That sat on my chest like a brick. I carried it home in my pocket like a stone. Maybe I was too soft. Maybe all those years of go along to get along raised kids who think quiet means weak. That night I turned off the TV. Not off, just muted it. I wanted to hear if they said my name when they thought I wasn't listening. They didn't. Then it happened. I was scrolling on Theo's laptop, left open on the kitchen table, and there it was, a Zillow listing, my house, my porch, my damn rocking chair still sitting there in the picture. I didn't yell, didn't flip no tables. I just stared. And the thing is, I didn't need to ask no questions. The picture told me everything I needed. They were moving without me. So I called Eddie, old union buddy turned paralegal, asked if we could meet up, started jotting stuff down, wills, account numbers, keys, deeds, My name was still on everything, but for how long? I bought a little black notebook, kept it in the drawer behind the canned beans. Every night I wrote, quietly. Then one night I crossed the street just to look at the house from a different angle. Something about the distance helped me see clearer. Porch light flickering, wind pushing that loose shutter, and my rocking chair still there. Mine, I whispered, almost like a prayer, but sharper. You go and try to erase me. Watch me rewrite the whole damn story. Something was off before my eyes even opened. The air in the room felt strange, still, but not peaceful. More like it was watching me breathe, judging if I'd wake up at all. I swung my legs over the side of the bed and sat there for a moment, listening. Not to sound, but to silence. Even that had changed. When I stepped into the hallway, the smell of brewed coffee hit me. But it wasn't mine. Someone else had made it. The picture of Clarice, the one from our 20th anniversary trip to Ocean City, wasn't where I left it. And the plaque from the Union, the one that used to hang right above my armchair, was gone. The table had 2 plates, not 3, not one for me. Theo and Tamara were already dressed. He had that slick shirt on, the one he only wore when he was trying to make a good impression. Tamara's hair was pinned up, makeup perfect, Sunday church ready on a Wednesday morning. Y'all headed out early today? I asked, trying to sound casual, keep the tremble from my voice. Theo didn't look up. Yeah, just got something to handle downtown. Tamara nodded, didn't say good morning. I sat down, poured myself some coffee from the pot. It was lukewarm. You know, I was thinking we could fix the screen door this weekend. It's been hanging low for weeks now. Theo grabbed his keys. We'll see. That's all I got. We'll see. And then the front door opened, a gust of cool air rolled in, and just like that, they were gone. Felt like a guest in a hotel where I ain't paid the bill. I sat in that silence for a few minutes before walking to my small home office. Door creaked just like it used to. Everything looked in place, but something felt shifted. The filing cabinet was cracked open. Now, I ain't a man who accuses without facts. But I know what drawers I lock. That one hadn't been touched in years, not even by Clarice when she was alive. My hand hovered before pulling it open. The folder with the house deed was missing. Same with the envelope that had the living will, and that thick policy from Allstate I've been paying into since Reagan was in office. Gone. I stood still. Didn't panic. Just stood. Outside, I heard the car pull out, tires crunching slow on the gravel like they didn't want to wake the dead. They don't even close the door right no more, I mumbled. That's how little they think I'm staying. I didn't chase after them. Instead, I went to the kitchen, poured the rest of the coffee down the sink, and stared out the window. By noon, I was dialing Percy, known him since we was 23. He was the kind of man who ironed his jeans and always kept a shoebox full of business cards just in case. Zach, he said, voice warm but sharp. What's going on? I'm just checking in, I lied. He paused. Zach, folks don't check in unless something's off. I sighed, voice low. I think somebody in this house is making moves behind my back. Another pause. You got documents missing? Yeah. Then hear me good, he said. People don't steal what they don't plan to use. That line stuck with me. We made plans to meet at his place that Friday. He told me to come alone, not to tell nobody. After the call, I went into the basement. There was an old tool chest covered in dust, and inside, wrapped in a dry cleaning bag, was a flash drive. I remembered saving it when Clarice started getting sick. Scanned copies of everything, deed, living will, bank forms. Took me a half hour just to make sure it still worked. It did. I slipped it in my back pocket like a weapon. That night, I sat on the porch. The kind of night that carried old sounds, kids riding bikes too fast, someone's stereo playing Al Green, wind whistling through the alley. I closed my eyes and a memory slipped in without knocking. Theo was maybe 8. Summer blackout hit the whole block. No lights, just candles. He was scared, so I carried him on my shoulders while we sang hymns from the old Baptist hymnal. "This little light of mine," he hummed into my ear, and I remember feeling like the strongest man alive, but that boy was gone now. I don't recognize the man who looked at me last week like I was standing between him and a check. I grieved that memory. Then I got mad, real mad, but I didn't scream, didn't cry, just whispered, "If the house don't mean nothing to them, maybe it shouldn't mean everything to me." And just like that, I knew what came next. It was a Saturday. Quiet, sky half gray like it couldn't make up its mind. I got up early, earlier than usual even. Felt like if I didn't move, the day would forget I was still breathing. I set the grill up in the backyard. Nothing big, just some ribs I'd marinated overnight, pot of collard greens, and cornbread from scratch. It wasn't about the food. It was my birthday. I figured maybe Theo or Tamara might remember. Maybe even a happy birthday pop. Nothing grand, just recognition. A moment. Clarice used to make a fuss. She'd bake me that butterscotch cake with the messy frosting, sit me down like a king. "Ain't nobody else gotta remember, long as I do," she'd say. That woman knew how to fill up a space with love. Chairs were set out, 5 of them. Looked like a gathering was coming, but nobody sat. I waited, listened to birds argue in the trees, watched a squirrel steal from my feeder like he had a right to. Hours passed, 2. I let the ribs burn a little, flipped them anyway. Wind picked up and the paper plates I laid out started to curl. I told myself maybe they were out shopping, maybe planning a surprise. Then I walked back inside. The trash bin caught my eye. A cake box, store-bought, already used. Vanilla. I hate vanilla. Clarice knew that. Theo knew it too. I opened the lid just enough to see the crumbs. I wasn't forgotten. I was removed. No confrontation. I just walked into the kitchen. The kind of slow walk where each step gets heavier, but your face stays calm. Sink had 3 used paper plates, 2 forks, pink frosting smudges. Counter had crumbs too, and not the good kind. The kind that said this wasn't for you. From down the hallway, I could hear music, the OJs. Family reunion. Tamara had the door cracked and was humming along. That song used to make me tear up. Now it just made my teeth clench. I didn't say a word, just turned, walked to my room, sat by the window, picked up an old card, birthday card from Clarice, yellowed at the edges. "To the love of my life, may you always feel seen." I ran my thumb over the ink, soft like her voice used to be. If they didn't think I'd notice, it's because they think I've stopped mattering. I stayed there a long while. My eyes weren't wet, but they burned like I'd been staring at the sun. Out of nowhere, my mind took me back to my 42nd birthday. Theo was barely out of grade school. He came running home, all teeth and elbows, shouting, "Daddy, I got something for you." He'd made a tie out of paper and glue. Drew little hammers on it because he knew I worked with steel. I wore it to the plant the next day. Boss laughed, but I didn't care. That boy used to look at me like I moved mountains. How does a son forget the man who raised him when he couldn't even tie his own shoes? That thought sat heavy, real heavy. It moved from my chest to my hands, made them shake a little. Then I stopped shaking. That was the last time I let sorrow get ahead of me. I opened the closet, pulled out an old storage bin. Dust rose up like it had been waiting on me. Inside were old pension reports, property tax receipts, letters about reverse mortgage offers I never responded to. I started laying them out like puzzle pieces. Something in me had shifted, quietly, but deeply. I picked up the phone and called Percy again. What happens if I sell it before they find a way to take it? There was a pause on the line, then Percy spoke slow, like a preacher delivering a benediction. Then you write your ending before they write theirs. I nodded to myself. Monday morning, I'd be at that bank. For the first time in months, I felt like my name was still on the deed, not just to the house, but to my own life. Wednesday night came with a kind of chill that don't belong to the weather. I set the table myself, pulled out the same dishes Clarice used when she was alive. The blue-edged ones with the little chip in the salad plate nobody ever noticed but her. Took my time with it. Forks, napkins, even lit a small candle in the center. Not because I wanted it fancy, but because I wanted it real. Theo walked in first. Looked confused, like maybe he thought we was about to have guests. Tamara followed behind, barely looked up from her phone. They both sat down without saying much, not even a, "How was your day?" Theo kept glancing at his screen. Tamara's phone buzzed every 2 minutes. I ain't say nothing at first. Just let the silence do the talking. Then I cleared my throat. "I know I ain't dead yet," I said slow, looking at both of them. "But y'all been treating me like I am." Theo leaned back, arms crossed. Tamara smirked, looked back down at her phone. "I ain't looking for no parade." And just some respect and maybe a little honesty. Tamara scoffed like I was wasting her time. I leaned forward. "You keep playing house with my walls, I might decide to move the whole damn house." Theo chuckled, said under his breath, "Here we go again." That right there, that little laugh, that cut deeper than any cuss word. That was the sound of someone who stopped believing you had power a long time ago. They finished eating and walked away like I just told them the TV was too loud. Later that night, I took the keys and drove down to Percy's place. His auto shop's still open most nights, mostly for old heads like us who can't sleep. We sat behind the garage on those same milk crates we used back in the day when we was fixing up my old Cutlass. The air smelled like grease and faded dreams. Percy handed me a ginger ale. Didn't ask questions, just waited. I told him everything. The birthday, the kitchen, the trash, the footage. He nodded, real slow. My cousin went through the same mess, waited too long. By the time he figured it out, his name was off everything but the tombstone. I stared out at the dark. "I ain't scared of starting over," I told him. "I'm scared of what I'll turn into if I stay." Percy looked at me hard. "Then leave before they turn you into a man you don't recognize." I didn't say nothing, but I knew right then I wasn't bluffing. I was planning. The next morning, before they even woke up, I walked into that back room Theo had turned into his home gym. Ain't seen a dumbbell in weeks, just clutter. I cleared it out, quietly, put my boxes in, old documents, life insurance policies, the deed, Clarice's recipes, the will. I brought in my safe, changed the lock, hung a picture of Clarice on the back wall. Her eyes looked proud, like she knew what I was doing. Around noon, Theo came knocking. "You changed the lock?" I stood there in the doorway. "This ain't your house," I said, calm as I could. "It never was." He didn't yell, just blinked like I'd slapped him without touching him, then turned and left. Tamara passed by behind him. She didn't say a word for once, just looked down. That night, after they both left the house, probably to go clear their heads, I went to the basement and dusted off that old security system I installed years ago. Forgot it still worked. Pulled up the feed. Someone had been wiping the footage. Didn't take me long to recover it. Theo walking around the house with a man in a suit, pointing at the walls, the kitchen, even the backyard, showing it like it was already his. I didn't blow up, didn't kick a chair, just hit save and emailed it to Percy. Subject line, insurance. Then I went to my journal, flipped past the notes, the scratch-outs, the prayers I'd written when I thought I was losing my mind. And I wrote, "They ain't just waiting for me to die. They rehearsing it. It was a Saturday night when the music started thumping through the floorboards like the house had a heartbeat that wasn't mine. I was sitting in my room reading an old dog-eared copy of Baldwin when I heard laughter, loud, careless, unfamiliar, the kind that don't belong to people who ever helped build that roof over their heads. I stepped out and made my way down the hall. Smell of cheap whiskey and cologne hit first. Then I saw it. Folks I ain't never laid eyes on lounging on my couch like it was a bar stool. One man had his muddy boots on my wife's old quilt. A woman was flipping through our family photo album like it was some thrift store trinket. Not a single head turned when I entered. Not a hello, not a nod. Just laughter bouncing off walls I painted with my own hands. I looked for Theo or Tamara. Nowhere in sight. I walked past them all, didn't say a word. Grabbed my coat, my keys. Quiet. Steady. 'Cause sometimes silence don't mean you weak. It means you counting. I drove to Laverne's corner store, still open late, just like always. She was at the counter, restocking gum, squinting at a receipt. As soon as she looked up, her face changed. "You got that look like your soul got evicted," she said, shaking her head. We didn't talk much at first. Just sat behind the store on two old milk crates, sipping coffee from styrofoam cups, steam curling up like the last warmth I felt all week. I told her they threw a party in my house tonight. Didn't tell me. Didn't ask. She nodded slow. They treat me like an old wallpaper they can't wait to peel off. She looked me dead in the eye. You ain't finished just 'cause they want to move on. You ain't disposable, baby, you breathin'. You here. That means something. I didn't cry. Not in front of Laverne. But I let the ache sit in my chest where the anger usually goes. It was close to midnight when I came back home. The street was quiet now. Inside, the party was over, but the smell of beer, fried wings, and sweat still hung thick. I walked slow, room to room, quietly, looking at what they'd already claimed. How many pictures were gone from the shelves? My recliner shifted to the side. The rug folded like somebody dragged furniture across it. My house looked like a set someone else was staging. In the kitchen, I saw it. An envelope on the table with Theo's name. I opened it. Real estate paperwork, offers, viewings, conversations I was never part of. I didn't slam the table, didn't rip the pages, just breathed. Long, deep. "Okay," I whispered. "Now I know what page they writin' on. I'll just finish the book first." That night, back in my room, I pulled out a notebook Clarice gave me the year before she passed. Leather-bound, barely used. I wrote slow, careful. Not a diary, not some vent, but a letter. To myself, told myself how I tried to keep peace by staying quiet. But silence. Silence ain't peace. It's a permission slip for people to erase you without pushback. I mapped it all. What I'd seen, what I felt, what I planned. I wrote about the shift, from sadness to clarity to strength. Near the end, I wrote, "Silence ain't peace. Silence is the soil where betrayal grows." I sealed the letter, pressed it shut with my hand like a prayer. Then I slid it into my Bible under Proverbs 17:1. Sometimes you got to be still to move. And tonight, I started moving. By the time the next Saturday rolled around, the air in that house felt like it was getting squeezed through clenched teeth. Theo and Tamara walked past me like I was drywall. No, good morning, no eye contact, not even a nod. The same people who used to call me daddy, with full chests, now moved like I was a burden they couldn't wait to bury. I noticed everything. The electric bill had my name scratched off with pen, but still my account. A family photo in the hallway, replaced with one from some barbecue I wasn't invited to. And at breakfast, as they sat chewing eggs like they were alone, a voicemail played loud on Theo's phone. "Once all owners sign, we can move ahead with appraisal." They didn't even pause it. Didn't even blink. Tamara sipped her coffee and said almost sweetly, "Have you ever thought about downsizing? You know, for comfort." I looked her square in the face. "You downsized me a long time ago." I didn't wait for a reaction. Just stood up, carried my plate to the sink, and walked out into the backyard like the air indoors had run out. That afternoon, Pastor Marvin pulled up slow in his dusty pickup, that same truck from way back when we used to build porches together for church fundraisers. He'd heard something through the grapevine. Maybe it was the way silence travels in our community, faster than a phone call. He didn't come to preach, just brought 2 folding chairs and a thermos of sweet tea. We sat in the yard behind the shed, the sun starting to dip low. "I ain't never been scared of storms," I told him, "but this one's coming from inside my house." He nodded, slow. Jesus flipped tables when folks turned a sacred place into business. Maybe it's time you do some flipping too. I looked down at my hands. These same hands raised Theo, changed his diapers, put him through school. Hands that once shook from grief now started feeling steady with purpose. Marvin leaned forward. "You taught me to stand up when I was a boy. Now I'm telling you, don't sit down for this." The next morning, I put on my best pressed shirt, same one Clarice liked on me, and drove to the county clerk's office, told the young woman behind the desk my full name, and asked about house deeds, transfer rights, and co-owner laws. She pulled the file, flipped through it, and said, "This property? Sir, you're the sole owner. Ain't no one else on this title." I nodded, calm. That's all I needed to know. Then I drove across town to meet Vernon, old Army buddy turned real estate lawyer. We talked in his garage while his kids shot hoops nearby. "If they trying to move behind your back," he said, "you best tighten your front door first." I told him I didn't want to throw fists, just facts. Let the law speak for me. "If they gonna play chess with my life," I said, "then let me show 'em who built the board." By evening, the sky was orange. I was back home, organizing old paperwork in my locked office, when I heard Theo's heavy steps stomping down the hall. He burst in without knocking. "Where are the papers from the dining cabinet?" he snapped. I stood slow, faced him. "Which ones?" "You know which ones. Don't play dumb." I took a deep breath. Then I let it out real slow. "You treating my living like it's an inconvenience, like I'm just in your way. But this house been my sanctuary since before you learned how to lie." His face turned red. "We're trying to move forward." "No, you trying to move me out," I cut in. "But next time you try to sell something, make sure your name on the deed." He didn't say a word, just stared like he couldn't believe I'd said it, like he didn't know I had that fire still in me. Then he turned, slammed the door behind him. Tamara was standing just down the hall. She didn't say a thing, but her face, that told me everything. For the first time in years, they both saw me, not as an obstacle, not as an old man, but as the man who built the ground they stood on. It was late Thursday, the kind of night where the wind talks low and long, brushing through the trees like it's reminding you something big is coming. Theo and Tamara were gone, some dinner downtown. I didn't care to ask. That was my window. I slipped into the home office real slow. The same room they once claimed as their gym, now back in my hands. I carried in a cardboard box, worn edges, black marker across the side. Nora's papers. Azura had kept it safe at her friend Tanya's place until I said the word. I sat down, opened the top. Inside, time waited for me. Letters from Nora, old receipts from the land purchase, original deeds, each one like a whisper from a life they thought had faded. But it hadn't. It had just been buried. Then I saw it, folded like it never wanted to leave my hands again. Her poem, the one she gave me right after we paid off the house. I'd forgotten the lines, but not the feeling. My fingers shook, but I unfolded it gently like I was touching her again. I laid the papers out, scanning every page, and there it was. Annotation marks from some agent, but in Theo's name, different color ink, circle around a sale clause. Highlight on vacant possession. That told me everything I needed to know. They were working behind me, and now I had the proof. I slid the key documents into my briefcase and snapped it shut. Then I picked up the poem and walked out to the back porch. Porch light still worked. Buzzed low but steady. I read it slow. Our story written in paint and wood. Don't let strangers carve it down for good. You built this house, but love made it home. Our history is not yours to disown. I sat there quiet, with that lump in my throat that's part grief, part rage, and part awakening. She wrote those lines for me, but I swear it felt like she wrote them for this very night. You thought you erased her voice, I whispered. She speaks through this. I looked up at the stars, repeated that middle stanza again, until I could say it without needing the page. Back inside, I walked the halls, not like a ghost. I walked like a man reclaiming his name. Every picture frame told a story, and too many were edited. Family photos had gaps where I once stood. One of them even had Nora cropped out entirely, like she was inconvenient. But when I got to our wedding portrait, center of the hall, or at least it used to be, I saw it had been nudged off to the side. I stepped closer. No dust line, no accident. I took it down, wiped the glass with my sleeve, and recentered it. Perfectly. That wasn't for them. That was for me. For her. From the hallway, I checked each lock, each window, made sure I wasn't followed. The air outside didn't feel right, but I didn't flinch. Through the curtain, I saw a figure near the driveway. Theo, I guessed, pacing, on a call maybe. I didn't care. Back in the office, I opened the safe, placed the briefcase inside, locked it, then grabbed my phone, entered the backup code I hadn't used since Clarice passed, documents, photos, security footage, every single file uploaded quietly into the cloud and sent to a separate secure drive I'd arranged through Vernon. I sat back down on the porch, this time with a hot cup of coffee, even though it was way past midnight. I let the heat sit in my hands, let it warm the parts of me that had grown cold. Then I said it out loud, like a vow. You can reject me, you can disrespect me, but you can't bankrupt my name. Not now, not ever. I pulled up the draft email, attached the files, encrypted link, scheduled delivery for morning. Then without fanfare, I pressed send. Not to Theo, not to Tamara, but to someone who'd know what to do with it. I didn't need applause. I didn't need revenge. All I needed was truth to move in silence and let the noise come after. Saturday afternoon came with a sky too blue to be casual. There was weight in the air, like even the clouds were holding their breath. I hadn't told Theo or Tamara everything, just an invitation. There'll be a service for your mother, community church. You should be there. They showed up dressed for photo ops, not grief. Tamara in heels too high for a church floor. Theo in a button-down, jaw tight like he was bracing for something. They didn't expect this many folks. Not elders from the block, not Miss Clara from the food pantry, not the boys from the old repair crew, and certainly not a full house of folks who knew Nora not just as a mother, but as a force. The church hall had her photo up front, the same one they tried to remove from our hallway. Her smile had weight in it, the kind that don't fade with time. I stepped up slow, let the room settle, cleared my throat once. Then I spoke. Not loud, not for performance, just from where it hurt and where it healed. She gave to y'all before she gave to herself. You knew her as a woman who showed up with pies and hugs. I knew her as the one who built peace in a house full of storms. Today, we honor her voice, the one that some folks tried to silence. Theo shifted in his seat. Then I nodded to Pastor Marvin. He walked up, paper in hand. Not scripture this time, but that poem, the one she wrote me in the quiet of our hardest season. He read it slow. The room leaned in. She built a house with calloused hands and guarded it with silent stands, her name not etched in mortgage lines, but every board her blood defines. People murmured. Then came the lines I knew would hit. They smiled and stripped the walls with grace, claimed her work, then moved her place. But what they steal with clever tone can't erase what's already home. By the time he finished, the silence in the room wasn't soft. It was charged. You could feel folks looking, connecting dots. Then came the photos. A slideshow. Not just the smiling Christmas ones or birthdays. These were scanned documents, legal titles, receipts, and in every corner, my name. Then came a pause, and then the video started. I'd recorded it 2 nights ago. In my chair, my words plain. Some of y'all been asking where I've been. Truth is, I've been right here, watching my own blood try to sell off the bones of my history while smiling like I should be proud. I laid it bare, showed the emails. Theo's name attached to property listings, voicemails where he discussed moving Dad out quietly, realtor emails calling the house ready for handover. One woman in the second row stood up, shook her head. Not Nora's son. Theo looked around, trapped in the pew like a man suddenly underwater. He stood, tried to walk out, but no one moved. Just stares. I ended the video with my last words. This house wasn't just brick and wood. It was her laughter in the walls, her breath in the curtains. You don't sell that. You protect it. When the lights came back up, I stood again. I wasn't shaking. I've been silent a long time. Not because I was weak, but because I was watching. And what I saw, I won't let that stand no more. The elder men nodded. Some lowered their heads like in prayer. Others looked at Theo like he just lost something money couldn't replace. Tamara started crying. Not loud, just enough for sympathy. But I didn't go to her. Not this time. I looked past her. The house has been listed, by me. Any profits will go to the Nora Baines Memorial Fund for single mothers and home repairs in this zip code. Ain't a dime going to disrespect. Gasps. Then a slow rise of claps. Not the excited kind, the heavy kind, the kind that says, "We see you." I stood in it, not proud, just steady, because justice ain't always about who yells the loudest. Sometimes it's about who speaks when the silence is deepest. Sunlight eased through the crooked blinds and laid itself soft across the linoleum floor. Not much to it, just a one-bedroom apartment with creaky steps and walls thin enough to hear the neighbors sneeze. But it was mine, and quiet, the kind of quiet that don't ask questions. I moved slower these days, not because of age, but because I could. I set the kettle on the stove, spooned coffee into the old press, and watched the steam rise like breath from a new start. When the knock came, it was gentle. 2 taps, like someone remembering how doors used to be knocked on, back before everything turned to texts and code words. I opened it to find no one, just a small brown box sitting on the doormat. No return address. But the handwriting on top. I knew that loop and tilt. Nora. It stopped me cold. I didn't bring it inside right away. Just stood there, box in hand, heart caught somewhere between then and now. Later, after the coffee cooled and the sun found its way to the other side of the sky, I finally opened it. Inside, a letter, dated months before she passed. Her handwriting steady, though I could feel the weight behind each word like they'd been hard to push out. If you're reading this, then you did what you needed to do, and I'm proud. She didn't speak in riddles, never had. Just truth wrapped in grace. She wrote about fear, not the kind that comes from storms, but from silence. The fear of being erased, of watching what you built be turned into a transaction. I saw it in Theo's eyes before you ever did. That shift, that hunger. I prayed he'd grow out of it. I was wrong. I sat real still. But I knew you'd protect what mattered, even when it hurt, especially then. Her last line read, "Let the house go, but don't let go of yourself." I folded the letter slow. Didn't cry, not then. Weeks passed. I didn't see Theo. Didn't expect to. Tamara sent a short note, typed. No apology. Just, "Hope you're well." I didn't respond. Sometimes silence speaks better. One morning I took a walk past the community lot Nora always talked about turning into something. Now it was a sight in motion. Wood beams, paint cans, and laughter filled the air like promise. Her name was on the banner out front. Nora's table, a place to gather, a place to heal. Kids ran around with rollers too big for their hands. Elders stirred soup in aluminum pots on portable burners. I walked up slow, not looking to be noticed. But one boy saw me. Couldn't have been more than 10. "You, Mr. Zackary?" "I guess I still am," I said, smiling. He held out a hammer, too big for his grip. "Can I borrow your eyes? I don't know where to start." I looked at that half-painted wall, then back at him. "Build something you'd be proud to lose," I said. "That's how you know it was worth building." He grinned and got to work. That night, I sat on the back steps of the rec hall watching the light fade behind the church steeple. Corbin joined me, same way he always did, without words. After a few minutes, he said, "You didn't lose your son, man. You reclaimed your soul." I didn't argue, just nodded. Theo still hadn't called. Maybe he never would. But I stopped checking the phone weeks ago. Some weights ain't worth carrying. Instead, I started showing up at the church Thursdays, reading to the kids, Nora's stories mostly. She used to say stories were the only way to tell truth without raising your voice. Every week, a little girl with braids would ask, "Was she really that kind?" Every week, I said the same thing. Kinder. This morning, I brought fresh lilies to the cemetery. Quiet out there, wind low, sun steady. I laid them down, straightened the stone, and whispered, "We did it, baby, on your terms." Then I turned, and I walked away, upright, slow, but never looking back.